Hey everyone, welcome. This is Neesin from THS Wrestling, and I am here with what I consider the pinnacle of wrestling interviews and interviewers rather. But he also does some amazing stuff that's not in wrestling, which I definitely get to talk about. Have the pleasure to welcome you to Chris Van Vliet, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on, Neeson.
Ah, man, thank you for being on. I like to start all my interviews with the same question: is what inspired you this morning?
This morning, gratitude. Gratitude drives me every single day. I start and end every day saying out loud three things that I'm grateful for. So that's what inspired me today. That's what will inspire me tomorrow. But my whole goal is like to be excited for what I'm going to do that day. And then when I lay my head down to sleep at night, be proud of what I've done.
That's probably the best answer I've gotten so far. Just because it really makes you think, like, what are the three things that you're grateful for today, and then going to bed kind of with that same grateful mindset. Like it's a beautiful thing.
Well, the idea is if you're in a grateful mindset, how could you possibly be upset? If you're appreciative of all the things you have in your life, what's there to be pissed off about? And Tony Robbins, he says it best. He says, if you can trade your expectations for appreciation, you'll always be doing great. It's so true.
That's like I said, that's probably my best answer that I've gotten so far.
That's a great question, by the way. I might steal that.
Man, I love starting all the interviews with it because it's always interesting to get into people's head and just where their mindset at is in the morning. And some people, it makes them think like, oh wow, like maybe I wasn't inspired by anything this morning. Like, so I've had all array of answers, and the gratitude one was the first one that I've gotten from you. So man, just kudos to you already coming out, knocking out.
And kudos to you. That's a fantastic question.
Oh man. Like I said, if you guys, I know everyone's watched this, have seen every interview you've done. I mean, they've seen all the hundreds of Young Bucks interviews you've done. Like 4. But I want to start off with talking about the most fascinating thing that I found out about. You own a fishing gear company that is actually ranked in the like top 500 of Inc. magazine, right? Like, or just Inc. business in general. Tell me, how did you get into fishing? Have you always been into fishing? I want to know the backstory of this, because that was the most amazing thing that I found out.
Yeah. So for me, the things that I'm passionate about, I go all the way in on it.
Right.
Like I dive all the way in. I don't check the temperature of the water. I don't check the depth of the water, just dive in. So for fishing, for me, I've been super passionate about fishing since I was 4 years old. And we used to go to like our neighbor's cottage, which was about an hour and a half from where I grew up in Toronto. And the kids were a little bit older than me. I was 4. The other kids were like 10 and 12. There wasn't really anything for me to do. So my parents put a life jacket on me, stuck me out on the end of a dock with this tiny little fishing rod, like plastic fishing rod, and a worm. And I caught my first ever fish. It was a rock bass. And pardon the pun, I was hooked. And every single time that we went to this cottage, I wanted to fish. And as I got a little bit older, all I wanted to do, oh my gosh, there's a picture of me holding a bass right there. There it is. My goodness.
Yeah, look at that thing.
Technology here. Amazing.
That thing is crazy.
Wow. So I started fishing in bass tournaments when I turned 14, and that just became a really big part of my life. I was playing sports as well, baseball, I was on the wrestling team, hockey, but bass fishing in particular was like something that really like drew me, and that became my main focus. I also, fished for salmon and trout and pike and walleye and muskie growing up, but bass, which is what's behind you in that photo right now.
Yes.
That's been my huge passion. So my fishing tournament partner, Aaron Anders, and we saw like this opportunity in the market to create these tungsten fishing weights. For years, they were made out of lead.
Wow.
And without getting, too down this rabbit hole here.
No, please.
We saw an opportunity. So we started this company, and now we've been doing it for 5 years, and it's been such a fun thing. I think I have a pack of here we are. Here's a pack of, we sell all kinds of different tungsten weights. These are our Ned head weights. So, you would put like a plastic, bait on the back of that. And yeah, there you go. Who knew that you'd be learning about bass fishing during this interview?
I think, like you said, once you love something, you just dive right in. once I'm intrigued by something, I dive right in and I want to know. Like you're like, no, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. Like I want to know about the rabbit hole. I'm glad you had a product to show it, because I think it's one of my. I used to watch bass fishing competitions on ESPN because they used to always come on at like 2:00 in the morning. I felt like, and I'll be up and I'll be watching them, and I didn't know what I was watching, but I felt the competitiveness of it going. So was that you? Did you?
Oh yeah.
Did you watch it growing up? Did you watch like the competitive bass fishing or fly fishing and just all the different competitions?
Yeah, and I'm like you, Neesin. Like when someone's interested in something, I want to figure out like why. Why do you like? Why is that your thing? And it's always interesting hearing the story. But yeah, I grew up watching the Bassmasters. That was the name of the like competitive fishing trail. Mike Iaconelli, Kevin Van Dam, Brandon Polinick, like all these guys are people that I've now fished with, which is crazy. So when you fish in these pro-am tournaments, the pro is the guy it's their boat. They're at the front of the boat, and the amateurs fish out of the back of the boat. So imagine being like a huge fan of golf and you're in the same tournament with Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson.
Crazy.
Like that's exactly what I was doing with bass fishing. So yeah, I still watch it. Like there was a tournament yesterday where Jeff Gustafson, who's Gustafson, he's a Canadian. He just won the tournament. And like, I'm Canadian. It's mind blowing that a Canadian could win one of these tournaments.
That was going to be my next question. Like you grew up in Canada. Was it a big, was fishing a big thing in Canada? I mean, I know like they have ice fishing, but I feel like I'm Californian and like, it's like, you see Canada is like, yeah, you have to like cut a hole in the ice and like put the thing and sit there and wait, like, ice fishing.
Yeah. I mean, that's a few months of the year, ice fishing, a few months of the year, but
okay.
Yeah. I mean, the temperature in Toronto would be similar to how it would be in any of the northern states. So Illinois or Ohio, New York, New Jersey. So yeah, in the summer, I mean, here's the thing. When you grow up in a cold climate, you take advantage of every single moment between Memorial Day and Labor Day. You do everything you can to take it all in. So for me, that meant fishing 3, 4, 5 times a week. I also, this is so nerdy, but my high school backed onto a creek in my hometown, Pickering, Ontario, backed onto Duffin's Creek. Wow. And the salmon would run there in the fall. The salmon would migrate from Lake Ontario up these rivers. They would go up these rivers and creeks to spawn. And in the spring, the steelhead, which are rainbow trout, would do the same thing. So I had a fishing rod in my locker at high school, and I would run out at lunchtime. I would run out behind the school down this hill in the forest about 5-10 minutes away. And the river was right there. The creek was right there. And I would catch a salmon or two. And then I'd go back to class in the afternoon, like reeking like fish.
Okay. So being born and raised in Southern California, these are just things I could never relate to, right? Like, first of all, having lockers, we just didn't have lockers. We had lockers there, but you could never enter them. Second, having a fishing pole on you. And then third, being allowed to actually just go fish right next to the creek. That's amazing. That's like a Twilight movie. Like that's just
I mean, now that I live in Southern California, I get it. Like you're not really surrounded by water here. I mean, you've definitely got the ocean
beach.
there.
Yeah.
You got the ocean and the beach, but like living in the Toronto area, or I lived in Miami before this, there's just water everywhere. Like, which means if there's water, there's fish. Right. And with my mindset, I was just like, well, if there's fish there, I'm going to go find a way to catch them.
So, since we're in high school, you said you played all the sports. Yeah. What was your favorite? Like, I know you said hockey, you did wrestling. What else? You said you did football too?
Hockey, baseball, wrestling. When I was a little bit younger, I was on the basketball team, volleyball team, did track and field, did cross country. I was just super competitive, still am super competitive. So if there was a sport, I wanted to at least try to make the team. And if I did make the team, I wanted to try to be the best I could be. But baseball was definitely my best sport, which again, growing up in Canada, you don't have much time to play baseball. So our tryouts would start in like February or March in a gym. And then we would start playing our games generally in May, but mean, you were hoping there wasn't snow because you could still get a random freak snowstorm in May.
How do you have baseball tryouts in the gym?
You know, they were seeing like you're young, right? So they're like,
oh, it's like just like
who
Columbine
can throw,
stuff.
who can like field a ground ball, like.
Oh, okay.
And then when you get to a point where, you know, as you get older, there's less and less people trying out for these teams because you're kind of weeding them out, I guess, as the years go on. So I think later on, it's just like, it's more just loosening up your arm and like making, you know, getting the winter rust off, really.
Right.
But they would do the first round of cuts from a gymnasium.
That's so crazy. I couldn't even, again, it's one of those, I always, growing up in LA, you always wish to have weather. Right? You're like, oh, I want snow, or we want rain. We want 4 seasons. Out here, you only get 2 seasons. You get like spring and fall, and that's it. Right? Like summers don't really get hot. Like,
but if you want winter, you can drive an hour and a half to Big Bear, and you can have 5 feet of snow, which is crazy.
Yeah, everything's drivable, but then you never want to drive in LA because like, I mean, before pandemic stuff, but like you just didn't want to drive. Like you,
I get it. Look, I heard a comedian say it best. I like the 4 seasons. I just picked the best one and always live in it. And that's why people live in California.
That's exactly what it is. And so where did your love for wrestling come from? If you wrestled as a kid or a teenager, I'm assuming, did you have dreams of being a professional wrestler?
I mean, I did, but on the high school wrestling team, you were kind of dissuaded from liking pro wrestling. What we do in here is real. What they do on TV, that stuff's fake. And I was always familiar with what wrestling was. Like my grandpa would have it on. Not that he was a huge wrestling fan, but he just liked having sports on the TV. So if baseball or hockey or football wasn't on, then he would have wrestling on. And that's when I became familiar with like Hogan and Warrior and Sergeant Slaughter and everyone from that era. But I had one of my very best friends in the late 90s. He was a huge wrestling fan. He was also like one of my really close fishing buddies. So you did this crazy thing in the 90s called talking on the phone.
What is that?
Yeah, wild, right?
Yeah, crazy.
So I knew Monday night at 9:00, our phone call would abruptly have to come to an end because Raw was about to start. This is back when Raw was 2 hours. And then one Monday night, I was like, all right, man, like I'll stay on the phone with you. I'll put it on. We like talk about whatever it is, Again, this is the fake stuff. What I do, I'm a wrestler. This is real. And I just got sucked into it. It was Austin McMahon was the main storyline. And my friend on the other end of the line's like walking me through like, oh yeah. And then this guy's going to come out. His name's The Rock. He does this fancy elbow drop called the People's Elbow. And I'm like, tell me more. And I went from watching 0 minutes of wrestling to watching literally everything, Raw and Nitro and ECW and Heat and Velocity and Jack Metal, everything.
So you dove right in.
Again. Yeah. That's what I do. This is either my best quality or my worst quality. I don't know.
Either way, you're going to go down swinging.
Going down with the ship.
Right. So, did you have in that time, did you have visions of saying, okay, I love this. I want to be like this person. Who was that person that you related to the most watching it during the Attitude Era? Like all of us during the Attitude Era. Who was that person?
There was 2. So it was Rock for sure. So much so that I was raised in the people's eyebrow in high school and asking people questions just so I could say, it doesn't matter what you think. And Triple H as well. So I had a Triple H poster on my bedroom wall, which try explaining that to your 16-year-old friends, why you have a shirtless man in his underwear, basically. Yeah. And again, with going back to this whole idea of like me diving all the way into this, I then became a backyard wrestler. And I taped my hands like Triple H, like it was the left wrist taped, but then the right wrist and hand taped. Oh yeah. I was very, very passionate about it. And at that point decided when I graduate from high school, I'm going to go attend wrestling school. I'm going to train to be a pro wrestler, and I'm going to be a pro wrestler one day. And I did all of those things except become a pro wrestler.
Okay. Was it the spitting of the water that got you for Triple H? Like, what was it? What was it about Triple H? Because I have this theory with Triple H. I feel like as a kid, I hated him. but I also picked him to play in every single video game. Like every single video when his music, when you could create a wrestler, the All About the Game music, the first one, the first game music, I picked that. I picked his entrance lights. It was all the other stuff, but I just hated him as a kid. But then when I realized, I was like, oh, he was just that damn good.
Yeah, that's what his shirt said. I just loved his intensity. I loved that everything he did like an 11 out of 10 with his promos, with how he sold in the ring, everything. And I loved that very first entrance theme when he became the game and he had that 1, 2. Is this on? That entrance theme? I would listen to that nonstop. I had the CD in my car. Wait,
Attitude CD.
I had the CD, the portable CD player in my car that had the adapter cord that went to the tape. The tape deck. Oh my gosh. And it was like song 4 on my CD. Ridiculous.
1, 2. Is this on? Yeah.
Is this on? Yeah.
It's man. So I was gonna bring up wrestling theme songs later, which I am, but during that Attitude Era, who besides the game, who was your favorite wrestling theme songs?
The thing about the theme songs then is they were all so good. And the thing about their themes then is you knew within 1 second exactly who was coming out. They all had that hit at the beginning. So I'm trying to think of the ones I listened to most frequently, other than Triple H, because I listened to that one a ridiculous amount. Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, that's such a legendary theme. Right. DX, because I was also a big Rage Against the Machine fan, and I thought that DX sounded so much like Rage, which I loved. Chris Benoit's entrance theme.
Oh, that was classic. That was another person that I always picked their music to on the video games.
Yeah. Oh my! I mean, we could list off so many. I thought that there were like Billy Gunn's "Ass Man" song to this day is the funniest wrestling theme song in the history of wrestling.
Like yes. That
last time I interviewed him, I was like, "Do you know what these lyrics are?" Like, I like to hug them. I like to kiss them. I like to love them. I like to kick them. Like, come on, man.
Like you, as a kid, I can't remember how old I was. I know I was like, I had to be like 12 or something during that time, or 13. And I remember walking around singing that song. Like, I like to love them. I like to giggle. And my mom used to be like, what are you singing?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, nothing.
I was the guy that I would go to the wrestling websites, and when someone had a new theme song, I would try to find the cleanest version of that song. I still have these folders on an old computer. Actually, I think they're on like a hard drive now, but I have all the old entrance themes, like literally everybody. So I would like, this is, man, we're going down another nerd rabbit hole here. But I mean, like random, like be studying for a test, listening to like Jeff Hardy's entrance theme or the Hardy Boys or Hardcore Holly or Al Snow. Like just, I had them all. And the funny thing was when someone debuted a new entrance theme, someone would record that off the TV, put it on the website, but then they'd put it on the website with the commentary behind it. So they would like rank them like, okay, no, this is a clean version. This is CD quality. Now this one is has some crowd noise in it. This one has crowd noise and announcers. It's like, wow, like the amount of time we put into that.
Was this on like LimeWire or like a Napster sort of thing? Because I remember it used to say that. It used to say like good quality. And used to have like the little descriptions of like,
like 192 kilobytes.
Right. It means it took like 2 hours to download.
Yeah, it was on Napster and LimeWire and Kazaa. Man, we're going way back there.
Oh my God.
But also just like you would go to like wrestlingthemes.com and maybe themes would be spelled with a Z, but like there would be people that would be super proud of like, I'm the one who ripped this. And I was always like, how did they get that? And then on top of that, I would then get the Titantrons too. So I have a folder of every Titantron. I was so proud of like, I got like one Titantron that was like super high quality. I was so proud. And I showed my mom and she's like, okay.
I'm gonna need you to find that drive and that folder because it's still things that people can't find now, right? Because they don't even do, I feel like, well, AW does, but WWE definitely doesn't do like Titantrons anymore.
Yeah, they just put the
like,
person's name up.
It kills me every time because I'm like, oh, every time the person like Reginald came out last Friday, and I was like, oh, okay, like my eyes go to the Titantron, it just says Reginald and like that like weird old screensaver font like that used to pop up on computers, and I was just like, all right, I guess could have gave me a move or some Cirque du Soleil thing he did.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. So you're passionate about wrestling. You say you're going to be a wrestler. You graduate high school, and then you went to college for communications.
Mm-hmm. I went to college for communications because I had a class in high school that was communications, and it was everything I wanted, it to be. It was a television broadcasting class. We made television every week. We wrote like a segment out, and then we would do it at the end of the week, and then we would all watch it back, and then we would vote on each other's segments. And I loved it. So
that's great.
I was very involved in my high school. I was the vice president of my student council. I did the morning announcements. I hosted the talent show, I'd host the fashion show. I did all this kind of stuff. So when it came time to pick your college major, and I'm 17 when I had to fill out those forms, I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life, but communications is fun. And like, I've always had a passion for broadcasting. I'll give that a try. So yeah, I went to school for communications, and it was great. And I had the best time of my life at college. I was living with 4 of my best friends. And then I had this epiphany, man. My senior year just hit me one day. I was having so much fun, and it hit me like, oh my God, when we graduate at the end of this year, that's it. Like, you got to go work for the rest of your life. And it hit me so hard in that moment that like, okay, if we're going to have to work for the next 40 or 50 years of our life, I certainly don't want to do something I dislike. So in that exact moment, with 7 months left of college, I reached out to every radio station, every TV station in my college town, and just said, I'm a really passionate communication studies student. Can I come and see how it's done in the real world? And one radio station brought me on their street team. I handed out like stickers at events. This other TV station was run by volunteers. So I got to like do all this behind the scenes stuff, like community television. So I did like VTR and cameras. I was a floor director, audio, got to see how it was all done behind the scenes. And then this other radio station said, well, we don't take on volunteers. It's, something we can't do with our insurance. How would you like a job? And I'm like, okay. They said it only pays $8 an hour. I said, well, that's $8 more than I was expecting to make. Right. And that's really where it began. I was a board operator at AM 570 News, like working the giant soundboard for like different talk shows and different like news broadcasts. And that's where it began. And when my shift was done, I would sneak into the production room and I would record myself reading those same scripts so I could have a little radio demo reel for myself. So that's where the whole process began. Like I had the foresight in college to go, man, I want to like take steps now to stack the deck so that when I graduate, I can at least try to get a job.
No, I think that's such gold information that if somebody's watching this now and they're 17 or even they're in college, trying to figure out what they're going to do next, or just period in life, especially during this time, trying to figure out what they're going to do next. I think that's very inspirational. Just look at your passion. And if you're going to be working for X amount of years in your life, why not do something you're passionate about?
Yeah. And I was really fortunate to find out what I was passionate about early, like passionate about fishing, passionate about sports, definitely passionate about broadcasting. And I was just like, not everybody has a passion, or at least not everybody's aware of what their passion is. But I'll say whatever it is that interests you, start to lean into that. To lean into that, because we're living in a world now where we all have this supercomputer that sits in our pocket. And because of this supercomputer in our pocket, you can really monetize anything if you try hard enough.
This is very true. And because of this supercomputer in our pockets, I was able to find out that you were a Bachelor of the Year in 2011. Like you had a very interesting, like the things that we just talked about are very interesting and not common, to say the least. But you were Bachelor of the Year in 2011.
Cosmopolitan Magazine. Yeah.
Yes.
So this came as a huge surprise to me. Someone at my work, I was working in Cleveland at the time. I was the entertainment reporter for the CBS affiliate there. which was an amazing job. Like I went to the Oscars, I covered the Grammys, I won 4 Emmys while I was there. And one of my coworkers nominated me for this Cosmopolitan Magazine Bachelor of the Year. So oh my gosh, there's me with an Emmy. Look, this is amazing. Look at this technology. So I got a random phone call from Cosmopolitan Magazine, and they said, "Oh, your coworker nominated you for Bachelor of the Year." I said, "Okay, how does this work?" They said, "We pick someone from each state plus Puerto Rico, so 51 guys, and then the audience and our readers are going to vote for who the Bachelor of the Year is, and they'll win a $10,000 prize." Wow. I said, "Oh, cool. Well, if I win, probably not going to win, but if I win, I'm going to donate that $10,000 to the Boys and Girls Club." And they said, "Oh, that's really nice. Why? Like, why is that your charity?" I said, "We work with them so much. What they do with the after school programs and giving kids just a place to like be and hang out with each other is like, what a great cause." So I'm like, that's what, if I win, this is probably not going to happen, but if I win, that's what I'm going to do with the money. We ended up having some fundraisers around it. In the case that I didn't win, at least we'd be donating something.
Right.
But I ended up winning, like in like shirtless photo shoot and all. I ended up winning this thing. And it's funny. Everyone did their photo shoot in either LA or New York. And my boss at the TV station is like, "All right, no, we want to have like control over these photos. So we're going to do it here." I'm like, "Okay, how are we going to like do these photos in Cleveland so it looks like, the other photos that are going to be in the magazine?" Right. So the photo that you see, I'm walking along the beach, the water's behind me. That's the shores of Lake Erie.
Wow, you couldn't even tell. I saw the picture. I thought it was on a beach somewhere, like on a LA, Miami.
It's a beach. It's the shores of Lake Erie, Lake Erie, Ohio. Yeah. But I knew when that was coming up, I wanted to get in the best shape possible for it. I trained really hard and I dieted down. Like I had a bunch of abs for that photo shoot, which was really cool. And then, yeah, for me to be able to win that thing, it's equal parts awesome and equal parts kind of bizarre.
It's such a I could imagine researching you and reading resumes and doing things. I'm like, yeah, wait, Bachelor of the Year. That's a great one to have people stop at. Yeah. And like, I still have like the big novelty check somewhere in my closet here. Like the big giant check. It was cool. You got to put that right under the YouTube, under YouTube plaque right there. Yeah, just put it. Yeah, just put it right there against the wall. It was like, don't get me wrong, it was a big honor. And oh no, for sure. And I ended up not long after that, completely coincidentally, I ended up dating someone for a pretty good length of time. So I wasn't a bachelor for very long. And it did its purpose. That's what it was. She didn't care, but I was like, yeah, I guess I'm not a bachelor anymore. Like I said, it did its purpose. I want to talk about your diet because I feel like you're probably the most fit interviewer in the business right now. What is your diet and just workout regimen, and how do you stay so motivated to keep going, especially during this time? I will say I can't compete with Simon Miller, who is in far better shape than I'll ever be. That guy is jacked. But thank you. It's just been a part of my life since I was probably 15. I started working out, and 16 I got my first gym membership. But I don't drink coffee, so this is my coffee. Really? Well, can you imagine me with more energy? So now I want to see it. My coffee is going to the gym, working out. I'm on like a 3-day split right now. So it's basically push, pull, legs. So chest and triceps, back and biceps. And then I do shoulders and legs on the 3rd day and then just kind of rotates. So I'm in the gym 5 or 6 days a week. If you follow me on Instagram, you know how much I love pizza. Oh, love pizza. And I like to say that don't cheat yourself, treat yourself. So every once in a while, you got to have something that makes you feel good. But the rest of the time it's chicken breast and salmon and, turkey and rice and sweet potatoes and relatively healthy food. But I am such a sucker for pizza and chicken wings, like such a sucker for it. Okay. So you already won me at pizza. Have you found any great pizza places now being out here in LA? Well, I need your help
because
Oh,
I'm
okay.
looking for the best pizza. I found a few spots. Like I like that New York style pizza where when you bite into it, there's a little bit of a crunch.
Right. Yeah.
So Joe's in Santa Monica. I don't know if you've been there.
Yes, no. I used to stay in the Palisades, and Joe's was my spot. That was my go-to spot, and I'm mad that it's so far away now.
Joe's might be the best. Actually, there's one in our neighborhood, Joe Peeps. Have you been there?
I've never been to Joe Peeps.
It's in Valley Village.
Yeah, that's definitely not far at all.
Yeah, right. It's super close, and it's about as close to you as you'll get to New York style pizza in the Valley.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have
and
to.
then
I'm
Lucifer's with their
Lucifer's,
sauce.
yes. Oh my God, yes, Lucifer's, and it's a place in downtown. I can't remember the name right now, but it's in downtown by the train tracks, and I used to go there all the time. And they have this the pizza's called the Thor pizza, and it's and I say this, it's a vegan pizza, and it doesn't taste anything. It shouldn't be a vegan pizza because I just indulge on it all the time. But when I get the spot, I would definitely let you know. But it's called a Thor pizza. But yes,
Everyone
Lucifer's
keeps telling
pizza.
me I need to go to Prince Street Pizza.
Prince Street
pizza. It's like a pop-up in Hollywood that like has a line every day. So I'm like, oh, it must be good.
Yeah, it must be good. I never had that one. But if you want to talk pancakes or like matcha green tea pancakes or donut spots, that's right. That's where you gotta be. Yeah. I got you with those. Pizza, I love pizza, and I'm always open for like pizza spots. But if you're talking donuts and pancakes, I'm your guy. I got you.
I can't wait till restaurants open indoors here.
Oh my God, I can't wait. Luckily they just opened outdoors, but even now, like it's still a little wishy. Before we go, I definitely have to talk wrestling with you.
Please.
And like I said, if you got everyone watching this video has seen one of your wrestling videos or interviews, I know it's a hard pick, but what's the most inspiring interview that you had from a wrestler?
I think there's been two. So I mean, I mentioned earlier how much The Rock meant to me growing up, and it's amazing seeing what The Rock has done with his wrestling fame. And now he has superseded that. The Rock is so much bigger now than he ever was in WWE. Right. So I've interviewed The Rock. I always joke about this. I've interviewed him 9 times, not that I'm counting or anything. But I'll never forget. It was an interview I did with him on the red carpet for Ballers. And look, The Rock's dream was to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, The Rock did not accomplish that dream. And it's funny because he's accomplished everything else. So I said to him, that was your dream, to play in the NFL, and you didn't do that. Obviously things worked out pretty well for you, but would you go back and change anything to live that dream? And he told me something I'll never forget. He said, sometimes things in life don't happen. And when they don't, they can be the best thing to never happen. And it's so true. Like sometimes we think our life is going on this path and I need to do this, then this, then this, and then I'll achieve this thing here. And then sometimes life throws you a curveball or a fork in the road. And sometimes those are the best things to happen to you. Because think about it. If Rock went and played the NFL, he would not have the career he has now, probably.
No.
So that's one of them for sure. And the other one was the interview I did with John Cena at the last in-person WrestleMania. So we're going back 2 years now. And I was so fortunate to be able to spend that time with him. Number one, the big standout for me was that was the only interview he did that whole weekend. And he carved out 15 minutes for me. Actually, carved out 10 minutes for me. And then he kept extending the interview as we were doing it.
I remember that, yeah.
I'll never forget his generosity during that. But his whole demeanor during that interview was just, it was kind and it was warm. And I even said to him at one point, I'm like, have you been meditating? Because he just seems so much more open than you would expect him to be. And he kept referring to that one quote in that interview, control the controllable. And I think about that all the time, especially with the strange, situation we're living in the world right now. Control the controllable. Like instead of freaking out and getting upset about the things that you can't control, focus on what you can control, which is your reaction to what's happening. And I think that too many people are too worried about things that they have zero control over. So control the controllable is something that, really hit me hard, right in the heart.
Was that interview, if I'm not mistaken, was that like at a gym or like upstairs on a like outdoor gym? Yeah, I remember that interview, and it really, and I remember him saying that, and I just also remember it like touching me. Like it felt all the things you asked him, like, wow, you seem so zen now. I felt the same way. Like I felt like, wow, this guy seems like just he doesn't seem how you would think Cena to be with doing movies, trying to, you know, wrestle, trying to like just the hectic life that he was living. And I actually worked on a commercial with him around that time as well. And it was a cricket commercial that we were in.
Nice.
And I got a chance to spend like 3 to 5 minutes just talking with him. And he was just very like, it was the most zen, calm. And I was like trying to trip him up because I asked him, every time I see him, I always ask him, hey, when are you gonna be on one of my songs? I want you to be on one of my songs. And he's like, he's always like, it's a young man's game. Now, if you need a pianist, I could, he was like, I got you. And I was like, and I said, a pianist? And I was like, a pianist? And like, he was like, yeah, a pianist. I was like, a pianist? And he was like, like, I kept trying to get her to trip up and he just kept like going back. And I was like, wow, this guy is just so calm and just really, and as you said, he controls the controllable. Yeah. He doesn't stress about what's next. He doesn't stress about the what happened. He's going on to now. And that's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he's been as successfully as he is now is a direct result of that. Mm-hmm. Like, we're watching the Super Bowl, and who comes on the commercials? John Cena and Dave Batista. And the cool thing about those two and The Rock is, obviously, they were mega famous in WWE. Mm-hmm. Now they're like even that much more famous, you know, leaving wrestling behind. And it's kind of cool. It's kind of like when someone big from your hometown makes it and you can be like, oh, yeah. Like I always say, like Shawn Mendes went to my high school. And I was like, Shawn Mendes, yeah, he's our guy. He doesn't know who I am, but he's our guy. Right. That's kind of how it is with wrestling. Like, I knew them when. I knew John Cena when he was the doctor of thugonomics.
That's not like, well, I guess that week he popped up as the doctor of thugonomics again, right? That was
the day after I interviewed him.
That was the day. So yeah. Speaking of your wrestling, I have to bring this up. I have to. I'm sorry to bring back the track. Ouch. And how long did it take you to recover? I've taken a couple chops myself, and this is just a lot. It was
20 chops. It took about a week. It took about a week for it to go back to normal. So that photo was taken at the very peak of when it looked the worst, with welts and redness. The redness died down pretty quickly. Those welts just started turning into bruises. So it went from being that purplish to like the brownish yellow of a welt. And it was an experience, man. So I went into, like, I had known Shawn Spears for a little while. I interviewed him right when he left WWE, before he signed with AEW. And I said, I'd love to come to your wrestling school and, you know, make a little video there. Said, of course. You got an open invitation anytime you want to come. I said, well, I used to train. I went to wrestling school, so I want to come and like take some bumps, run the ropes. He's like, you're welcome. My ring is your ring. I'm like, okay, cool. Wow. So we set up the time, went in there. I'd never met Tyler Breeze. Great guy. Peyton Royce was there. Billy Kay was there. And it was just great to like meet them. And then I said, all right, I'm going to come in the ring. We'll start rolling, get in the ring. I'll take some bumps, run the ropes. Maybe I'll lock it up with you. And Spears goes, well, then how about I give you a chop? And I'm like, okay, I'll take a chop. Sure. And easy enough. I said, one chop's kind of boring though. Like, why don't we line up all your students and have them all chop me? And he goes, oh, you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. Let's do it. He goes, okay. And that's what you saw in the video is exactly what happened. And I didn't realize, I looked at them like, oh, there's 8 students. I could take 8 chops, easy. 8 chops from these students. I didn't even realize some of them hadn't even done chops before. Then I learned that everybody gets 2 chops and Spears and Breeze were going to chop me too. And I'm like, 20 chops? I'm like, all right, well. And I swear to you, man, like after probably the 5th or 6th chop, my chest just went numb.
Feel it.
Yeah, it just went numb. Made for a great video, though.
It did. And I mean, also a great story as well. And I know it picked up a lot of some people didn't like it. It was a lot of heat, but also I just thought it was, like you said, you don't need coffee. The energy that you have, like, you're just like, yeah, let's do it. Like, yeah, let's go, line them
up. I saw Spears recently at an event, and I said, "Hey, man, I'm sorry if you got any backlash from that video." He goes, "I don't care. Like, backlash, who cares?" And like, I think at this point it has like 1.5 million views. So that's 1.5 million people that now know about Flatback's Wrestling School. So I'm really happy. I'm really proud of that video. I would totally do it again. I'm not going to do another one of those, but if we went back in a time machine, I wouldn't be like, "Whoa, you don't need to do this." I'd be like, "Hell yeah, man, do it." Probably like eat a little bit less pizza in the week leading up to it, so your abs show up a little bit more. But
So what stopped you from becoming a worker or a wrestler? Like, why did you said you trained, you took bumps, so are you training to get back? Do you still have visions of, like, tell me about that story, man?
Well, I went to wrestling school in Toronto. I went to the Squared Circle. I was training there at the same time as Angelina Love. Tracy Brooks was there. Some like really great talent from the Toronto area. I was going in the summer between college. So I was driving from my hometown to the Squared Circle. It was like 30-ish minutes. And then when it came time to go back to school that fall, I kind of just had to make a decision. I was at a crossroads, and I don't like to half-ass anything. I want to put my whole ass into it. So when it came time to go back to school, I was like, well, I can't just half go to school and half go to wrestling school. Wrestling school was now an hour plus away from where I was living in my college town, 4 days a week. And it was $250 a month, which when you're in college is a ton of money. Yeah. So I was just like, you know what? Wrestling will always be there, but I want to get my college degree. And sure enough, wrestling was always there. And when I graduated, things really started rolling with my broadcasting career. And I knew that wrestling would always be there, and it was. And now I am really happy to have my foot firmly planted in the broadcasting world. And I can, dip my toe into the wrestling world. I've been a ring announcer a bunch of times. I do these interviews. I've, done a few spots in a ring here and there. So I like that I can do that. But going back to what The Rock said, like, I think that everything happens for a reason. Like, I think that the best things in life are sometimes the things that don't happen. And me not becoming a wrestler allowed me to become a broadcaster and allowed me to have the career that I've had.
That's very true. And I think you had an amazing, well, I didn't say had, but you have an amazing career, because it's still going and it still has a lot of other places to get to. So when it came to the announcement of AEW, like, you were one of the people that had the internet abuzz when it was announced that you're going to be working with them. And then we didn't really see you so much, and we don't really we see you really at all with it. We still see the interviews. What happened with the whole AEW and Chris Van Vliet situation?
Well, I think the thing that wasn't clear enough in that announcement was that I was asked to be part of the first episode. So I was asked to be part of that first episode, which is the background here, which is, I just noticed that Capital One Arena, Washington.
Oh yeah, on the background of the picture. Yes.
Yeah. No, the background of like.
Oh, of the art thing. Yes.
Yeah. So I was asked to be part of that first episode, Washington, D.C., October 2nd. I mean, to be a huge wrestling fan like I am, to be a tiny little minuscule part of that first historic show on TNT, I had to say yes. So, I mean, I was super excited to do it too. So I was asked to be part of that show, and that was it. I was just asked to be part of that one episode. And I'm going into that, that's all I was expecting. You saw me do that one segment with Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah.
And then they called me a few weeks later and asked me to be on again, Charleston, West Virginia. I think that was the 5th episode of Dynamite. I did a segment with the Rock and Roll Express and Santana and Ortiz. Right. So that was kind of just like icing on the cake. So, and like a cherry on top. I'm just describing desserts now, but that was it. So I was never asked to be part of the show full time. I never had a full-time contract. I was asked to be part of one episode, and that was enough for me. To then double up and then do another one a few weeks later was really, really cool.
Would you ever want to work for a wrestling promotion? I guess full-time. I feel like full-time is not really a thing as at the moment, but more on a consistent basis?
I think it would depend on what the role is. I really like the freedom that I have now to talk to anybody from any different wrestling company. And also wrestling's just one part of all the things that I do. And I get that, it's the loudest and biggest and most in your face, especially with my YouTube channel, my podcast. But I've been an entertainment reporter my entire career. I've interviewed, everybody from Oprah to Denzel to Leonardo DiCaprio and Steven Spielberg, and the list goes on and on and on. That's a huge part of who I am as well. So yeah, I would totally do something with a wrestling company. It would just have to make sense.
Very, very true. Because before we get out of here, AEW, and I do want to touch on your Insight podcast, because you did bring it up. Sure. But AEW has really, really made some noise during this Mania season. And so I posed the question, has AEW stolen WrestleMania season?
I don't think so. And I think that people are like too combative about this stuff. I think at the end of the day, we're all wrestling fans. And I don't know why this thing happened where, like, if you watch Wednesday night, you can't watch Monday night. Or if you watch one product, you can't watch the other. Like, no. We're wrestling fans. And maybe you like WWE more than AEW, or maybe you like AEW more than WWE, or whatever, New Japan, Impact, whatever you want to have there. But like, I think we need to like just take half a step back and go, this is a pretty exciting time to be a wrestling fan. It's exciting. So cool to have all the options that we have right now. So I don't think that anybody is taking any momentum away from anything. And the fact that WWE is going to be putting on a show, WrestleMania, in front of a live audience for the first time in a year, I am just super grateful for that.
That is everyone's joyous. All the internet right now is screaming yes, because we are excited to see just fans react to a Drew McIntyre or to a Miz, boo the Miz. Like, can we just all just boo the Miz, or just cheer for your favorites, boo the bad guys? And I do agree that it is this thing, we can be fans of everything. Nobody feels that way about NJPW versus WWE. Nobody's saying that, right? And
nobody feels that way about like anything else. Like, oh man, your favorite flavor of ice cream is mint chocolate chip. Oh, I mean, come on. Obviously, vanilla is the best,
right?
Like, nobody does that.
They only feel that way about Girl Scout cookies.
This is true. Yeah,
this is very true. Girl Scout cookies. People will judge you off what your favorite Girl Scout cookie is, which is like, why, guys? It's just a cookie. But like I said, before we go, I do want to talk about your Insight podcast. And I felt that it is more, as you said, it's more of a deeper conversation, a deep dive into not wrestlers, but more so just any and everybody that is out here living, I feel like is living their passion or living their dream, or just are like to dive in like you 100% into things. What was the development in that when you decided to come up with it? What was the process, and how do you like it so far?
Well, my YouTube channel was the main thing for a long time. And I just kind of realized that, to ask someone to listen to a 45-minute or an hour-long interview on YouTube, I mean, that's a big ask. Right. So I started just taking the audio and I just made a podcast out of it and didn't really think much of it. That was just going to be the place where my YouTube audio lived. Then the podcast started to kind of grow legs and like become its own thing. And I realized if I was having these hour-long conversations with people who are the absolute best at what they do, and we're not just talking wrestling, we're talking entrepreneurs and athletes and actors and directors, I want to find out what makes them tick. And what I started to realize in all these conversations was they had a lot of the common traits all across the board, whether you were an entrepreneur or you were a wrestler or you were an actor, whatever. They had a lot of common traits. So I wanted to start like to reverse engineer, like, what are these people doing in their life that I can selfishly apply to my own life? That's really where it began. So like learning about like some of the books that these people read, or how much sleep they get, or how much water they drink, like, or like hearing stories. Like I just interviewed Vince Russo and he wrote letters to Linda McMahon at the WWF asking to like have them bring him in for an interview. Like hearing that kind of stuff really humanizes these people. So that was what the basis of my podcast kind of grew into. And I thought to myself, it was called the Chris Van Vliet Show. which does not make sense. The show's not about me. It's never been about me. So I want to shine a light on the people who I'm talking to. And I took my name out of the title because the title now is just like represents what the show's really about. It's about insightful conversations. And yeah, we renamed it Insight at the start of this year. And I'm excited for what's next.
Yeah. Any clues you give us what's next? Any
sure.
Yeah. I don't want to pry it from you.
I've had a busy morning, actually. I interviewed Eric Bischoff earlier this morning. Right before we got on here, I had Rikishi on.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. And Rikishi's in right in our area too.
Yeah, the school is over here, right? Or not too far from
Van
over here. Right.
Yeah.
I keep saying I want to get down there, but you know.
So Vince Russo, Eric Bischoff, Rikishi, John Silver. There's a Sabu. There's my next bunch of episodes right there.
You did all those this morning?
No, I did 2 of those this morning.
Oh, I was about to say.
I've done all those in the last 5 days. Yeah.
So how many can you do before you feel that your brain is slowing down? How many can you do in a day?
That's a good question. Endless amounts. All we're doing is talking, right? Like, it's a conversation. I think as long as I had enough food here, I could do it morning to night.
So you don't feel after having conversations with different individuals, because I feel like energy is passed when you do talk, right? Because you're listening, you're responding, you're taking in. You don't feel like after a certain amount, it's like, okay, I need to refresh. I need to.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess 2 or 3, but I look at what Joe Rogan does, and he's doing 2 or 3 in a day, and his are 2 or 3 hours.
Correct.
And somehow, I don't know how he does it, Joe Rogan has never taken a pee break during one of his episodes. I don't know. His guests do it frequently. I don't know how he does it.
This is true. Well, I mean, for 2 hours, you could hold it for 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah, but then like Alex Jones episode's almost 5 hours.
This is true. And he drinks,
and they're drinking usually.
Yeah, I was saying, and he was on the last episode. He was drinking actually Neff vodka on that episode.
What? Look at you.
Yeah, which was amazing with Freddie Gibbs and Brian Moses was on that episode.
Nice.
So yeah, man. Shout out Joe Rogan. But I thank you for your time, man. It was a pleasure. We went definitely over the time that I was supposed to go over, but you're such an amazing conversationalist, and it's really been a pleasure to talk to you. And I've watched all your interviews, and to be able to sit here and just give you your flowers while you're still here really means a lot, man.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you, Neesin. And I want to acknowledge you for doing your research, having these great questions, and what a nice little added touch with the pictures behind you here.
Well, you know, this side. Yeah.
What is that?
So it's I'll show you. So it's actually let's see, put none. So it's actually a green screen. I will tell THS wrestling fans. I bought this for New Year. I bought this on New Year's Eve to make my vision board, and it was white. And so, of course, months passed, and I was just like, I never really got around to it because my vision boards have to be like top notch. I like to cut out pictures, but like actual like get pictures printed, all this crazy stuff. I didn't have time to do it, so I was like, you know what? It kept sitting there. I was like, I'm gonna paint it green. And I'm going to put it in my background because I used to hold records above my record player right here. And I was like, you know, I could just fly the pictures up when I do interviews. I could fly pictures up when I do little videos and stuff. And so it works better that way.
Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate this, and I really enjoyed this.
No problem, man. Thank you. I can't wait to talk to you again. And please, guys, be on the lookout. Do you want to drop? I mean, everybody knows your socials, but please drop your socials where everybody could.
I'm sure most people don't. Chris Van Vliet, VANVLIET, and you and I should go grab some pizza.
Yeah, I am down to grab some pizza with you. I definitely want to try that Joey's place. Actually, that's Joe Peeps. Yes, Joe Peeps. I want to try that. And I will check you to my BB's, which is by Warner Brothers Lab, which is a matcha green tea pancakes and has white chocolate chips in it. Yeah, it's a cheat
Let's
day.
go.
If you, like you said, if you want to, don't cheat yourself, treat yourself.
That's it.
All right, guys. Guys, catch you on the next one, and we'll see you every Sunday at 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern on THS Wrestling, where we talk about the week of professional wrestling. I'm out, guys. Want more? Make sure you follow us on Instagram at ths.wrestling.